and then there'll be lots of opportunity to ask any questions. So thanks guys for tuning in tonight. And we'll get right to it. So we're going to try and keep the session to an hour. And if we need to go and do another session in December, we can. But I'm recording this session as well, so we'll make this available if you guys have colleagues that wanted to be on the call, or other people you work with that this would be relevant for, so you can review it. So the goal of the session tonight is just to get clubs up and running on SnowReg. If you guys haven't accessed it before, Graham's going to kind of take you through the bare bones on how to access it, and some of the tools in the back end from a membership, and then the coach database perspective. Graham's going to bring in one of his colleagues, Ashley, to go through the coach platform as well. And then we're going to just intro for you guys the event payment and contact tracing component of SnowReg, which I think will be a great tool for us this year. So far, and then one of the big reasons for us to make this switch to SnowReg is just now being in the middle of this pandemic. I think it was actually fortuitous that we were able to make the change that we did, because SnowReg is allowing us to be flexible for in regard to a lot of tools we need to be able to operate our sport this year. So not only is it going to be helpful for us just for online registration, which an annual registration, which is the majority of what our members come to our website to do. For you as clubs, the platform is much more user friendly, and there's a lot less problems than our last system thus far. But you can also, as a club, collect all of your club, camp, program fees on the platform as well. So that's built in for you to utilize right now if that's something that you want to be able to use. And Graham will show you a little bit of that as well. Also, there's integration with ACA. ACA is using SnowReg for their CSC coach registration database, which most of you know. They're going to use it for their courses, and SnowReg is also working with us to integrate to Alpine Points, where we do a lot of our race registration. So as well as a lot of other winter sports in Canada use SnowReg. Snowboard and freestyle both use SnowReg. So there's a lot of integration and collective knowledge now in the SnowReg system. So we're pretty excited to be a part of that. And as some of you have experienced, there is with any shift and any change, there's going to be a little bit of, some growing pains as we go through it, but that's why we're going to do some of these sessions and make sure everyone's got all the right information that they need. So from an event payment and contact tracing perspective, when it comes to AOA sanctioned races, which at this point we know there's not a ton of those, but there will be some, hopefully, this season for us. So the online payment and attestation will be something that's mandatory, and we want that to remain contactless. We don't want coaches to show up on property with a stack full of attestations and cash and credit cards. This is something we want to do contactless, so SnowReg is able to help us with that. And the same goes for, as I mentioned at the beginning, you can use the platform for any of your payments as well if you don't have an online registration system at your club. And I know a lot of clubs probably already are going to have a wellness check established, whether that be Team Snap, a Google form. Maybe they've connected something to Jonas. I know a lot of our private clubs use Jonas. So we're going to have to be a little flexible about how this all works, and that's not the point of the call tonight. But we're just going to take you through the SnowReg tool, and we'll talk about the logistics of sort of how that's going to work when race season gets a little bit closer, and we're working with the COVID task force to come up with those return to competition guidelines. So that will be the logistics of how that will actually work. It's not the focus of tonight, but certainly want to hear your feedback on that as well. So and another thing too that we think is really important is the local health units are going to be very supportive of an integrated event payment COVID attestation system. that's streamlined and centralized, so that Alpine Ontario, the ROC, and the clubs that are attending can all access the same information. So as a coach at a club that's going to a race at, say, Beaver Valley, you'll be able, as a Georgian Peaks coach, to get onto the system and make sure all your Georgian Peaks kids are paid and their COVID attestations are done. You're not just taking the word for it of your athletes. So as I said, there's still some logistics to work out, but certainly want to collect your feedback on that. Happy to chat offline after the session today, but we're going to need your collaboration to make this component of the system work. So we'll be working with you guys throughout to make sure that's it's something that's going to be as efficient as possible for everybody. So without further ado, we'll get into really what this call is all about. And I'll hand it over to you, Graham, if there's anything else you want to add before you jump in, or just go ahead and jump in.
Yeah, thanks, Robin. So I'm Graham from SnowReg. Robin covered quite a few of the basics there. We're a registration system provider that integrates membership, sales, and checks when registering for clubs, events, and activities. We provide a divide between organizations in our system and kind of integration between respective processes, so it allows for a lot of different levels of customization at different levels, be it AOA or a club or an event organizer, and then in terms of permissions and visibility over certain things like, say, attestations and stuff. It allows for kind of seamless interaction between organizations here. So today, in the respective time, I'll try to be pretty quick here. We got a lot to cover, but first I'll do a walkthrough what the AOA registration process currently looks like. All the clubs are technically live in the system with a basic registration process. With the sale of AOA memberships here, I'll be touching on the use of administrative tools and where some of the optional features that are available to clubs can be set up from or double checked. We're happy to do additional setup for you guys. I'll be touching on some of the COVID attestation and attendance tracking features that Robin and I are working together on. These will be available for use soon and can be launched in kind of a basic functionality pretty quick here if people are getting together for be it practices or meets or whatnots. I can field some questions during these walkthroughs, and afterwards I'll kind of do a little Q&A session while my colleague Ashley joins the call, and he'll be doing that little demonstration of some of the ACA coach tracking features there. Let's get underway. So for Alpine Ontario, we have the basic registration system set up for all the clubs that I mentioned. You'll all have visibility and access to AOA member information for those members that have affiliated to your club in the system. So this AOA landing page is where all registrants will visit and select their club. This may be fleshed out in the future to contain some AOA information, but it's as easy as doing that and clicking register. I'll be using this Adanac Ski Hill Club for my demonstration here. I'm already logged into an account, but at this point, if I wasn't, I'd be prompted to either log into an account or create an account. Password can also be reset from that page. If you need access to the system and don't have an account yet, or you may have created one that doesn't have appropriate administrative access, you can let Robin know that you need access to your club in the system, and just so we have her verification, and we'll set you up. This can be multiple parties, different people at different levels or roles within the club can have different sets of administrative access to see different sets of information in the system, so we can really get down to the nitty-gritty of that if needed. But back to the registration process here, you can see who is currently under an account that you're logged into. You can register other individuals there. We do have a lookup feature that if you enter specific information for an individual in the system, you can kind of link them to your account and say complete a registration on their behalf. So there's lots of different ways to keep information centralized in the system and try to keep one identity for an individual in the system with one account, just to kind of streamline a lot of the integration that I'll be covering and we'll get into with the system here. So select who I want to register. I can customize the information here and register myself. It'll automatically pull an address that is associated with an account, or you'd be prompted to say add an address there, or you can update it if it's changed for a new season. As we're in the club registration process right now, this is where you would see maybe specific club registration options if you want them set up within the system. You know, these can be paid or not paid. These can be age specific or gender specific, and it would appear to only registrants, you know, that would be eligible to register for a specific category. And then unless already held, they'd be prompted to add on a divisionally appropriate AOA membership to their order if they don't have one. And it would kind of pop up like this to add that on, or if they already have it, they can just proceed with the registration. So I'll click that and we can see, you know, how it's kind of integrating this Alpine Ontario membership process into the club process. You know, specific club or event registration categories can require specific levels of membership. So currently with this club, there's nothing specific set up. It's just a general club membership. So all the AOA membership options that I'd be eligible for as a skier would appear here. So I'll pick one for demonstration here. You know, optional insurance can be added on here. I click next. It'll request some information for me that is specified by AOA. You know, it can be either required or there can be, you know, some reporting questions here that are optional, you know, or, you know, if you want to be contacted about special offers or events, some food for thought about what you may want to add to the club process. Once everything required has been filled out there, I click next, give me a little overview of the membership registration I've added, and I can complete and return back to the club process. And this is where I would see information that would be requested from the club process. You know, you can request specific sets of information for different registration categories with the clubs, or say if this is an event registration process, different events. It's all pretty flexible, and there's a lot of different options for how we present the collection of information. If they need to upload files or whatnot, that can be thrown in there as well. Completing anything that's required on that front, I click next, and again, it'll give me a little summary of the club registration I've got going here, and I can complete and proceed to the cart. So this will then take us to kind of the waiver section of the registration process. So currently there is a combined AOA quote unquote waiver setup, and this combines a number of documents in the system. We kind of do this to streamline it, as you know, you may want to add, say, a club specific waiver or an event specific waiver that would be displayed as a separate section in the process, maybe after this. So we kind of just try to combine these documents together to make it more streamlined. But first, it's asking me if I am the individual being registered. So if I hit no here, it would request contact information for the individual being registered, and it would email them the waiver, so they can open that email up. There's a link in there that would allow them to review and check off and sign this waiver, just so we ensure that we're capturing the signature from the appropriate party. And things in the system, although you can complete a membership for someone's behalf, on someone's behalf, it'll kind of be in a pending status until they've actually accessed and signed those waivers from their email address. But and again, if it's a minor being registered, it would request, you know, parent guardian contact information for that signature. And again, you know, instead of asking if I am the registrant, it would ask if I'm the parent or guardian of the registrant and collect the appropriate information on that behalf as well. In this case, I am the registrant, so I'll hit yes here, and we see the sort of one-page combination of all these different AOA documents here. You know, there's a language selection. You know, we can see the first one's a code of conduct, and we have an agreement for that separate section. You know, and again, a concussion protocol section there. You know, so these are different codes of conduct and whatnot that are kind of amalgamated onto one page here, and you're making sure you're capturing a acknowledgement for each different section. You know, we can link the documents from a waiver page like this and throw in images or whatnot. Again, this is an area of the system that's very flexible and can be set up, you know, specifically for the club's requirements or event requirements. But going through and signing or agreeing to everything that I need to do, I can make one sort of digital signature against the agreement and agree to the above as the whole. And this will take us to the shopping cart here. So again, we see the division between the organizations in the system. You know, we have ACA, we have AOA fees for the membership that was added. We have a divisional element for, you know, their administrative access to the system. And then we have a club component here that, you know, is $0 is currently set up for the clubs in the system. But this will, you know, give you the member an actual registration with the club and give you some more administrative access to them in the system. you know, if any club fees or whatnot are applied, you know, there's coupon codes that can be entered there, or if you get one from AOA or ACA, that can be thrown in there. You know, credit card payment can be done at the bottom here. Accept Visa, debit, and Visa debit MasterCards. You know, a couple different payment options there, and we're kind of expanding that in the near future to accept, you know, PayPal and some other payment options. There's also some offline payment options available. I haven't really discussed this with Robin much, but, you know, if your club does need some flexibility on those fronts, you know, there's usually something we can figure out, you know, and if there's a specific need for club registration, usually we have a piece of technology we can kind of tweak to suit your needs and hopefully alleviate some administrative burden. So that's essentially what the run through of a registration process would look like. You know, I check out and pay, I'd receive a confirmation email, you know, a digital membership card if it may exist for your club, you know, and you can kind of customize what that message would look like. You know, an end user would be able to see their memberships from a profile and kind of double check their orders and stuff in the system. And that registration process, you know, as I mentioned, club and events a little bit interchangeably there. You know, it kind of looks the same, whatever you're registering for, you know, kind of with that prompt or check of a membership if the individual already holds it. But accessing the administrative side of the system is what we call our club dashboard. So as I mentioned, the accounts that you'll need to access this, you know, we'll have to set up for you if it hasn't already been set up, so you can let Robin know if you need that. So from this little tools drop down, you click that dashboard button to get there. I'm just gonna pop open this club page that I already had open up here again for Adirondack Ski Hill. So your clubs will all have this sort of dashboard landing page. You know, the dashboard will have a lot of other information access on the left-hand side here. You know, lots of things that won't be so much relevant to you, especially if you're not going to be setting up additional features in the system, but it can get pretty in depth and in detail, and there's a lot of different ways that information can be pulled out and found within the system. But essentially from this landing page, be it for a club or an event or whatnot, you know, it'll show some registration activity, allow you to open up specific registrations or manage a list of registrations, you know, open up financials and accounting. You know, there is permitting in the system, say for AOA clubs right now, so you can apply for a permit from this section and whatnot. But again, if you're just doing bare bones, you just want to see AOA membership information in the system, what you need to access in this dashboard is pretty basic and kind of contained in two different sections. First is this affiliation/club tab. This will give you a list of all AOA members that have affiliated with your club in the system. You can kind of access the membership details from there, see the status, and do some searching and configuration there to just double check that all your club members who need membership have membership. And then secondly, from this reports page, down at the bottom here, there's a PSO membership report, and this will contain all that information in a CSV document. So this can be generated and downloaded on demand. The buttons are currently blocked by this SnowReg support team contact. So if you do need to contact us for administrative assistance from the dashboard, there's a little chat functionality available here. We can be reached at info@snowreg.com. And then in the registration process, I kind of forgot to cover this, but there's a little footer there that says need assistance, you know, contact us, and that'll lead them to the chat, to our email, and also to our phone number, you know, if an end user needs some help. But hiding this, we can see these update and download buttons. So this is available on demand, and you can pull out a list of all members that have affiliated with your club and kind of the information that you'd have access for them in the system whenever is needed. So essentially, if you're not looking to do a whole lot with the system, you know, you need that report and then this affiliation/club tab, and you'd be set. But if you do want to you know, set more stuff up in the system, just back to that reports page because I was on it, you know, we see a lot of other information that can be pulled out in specific reports that are available. So this would deal more, you know, if you have a more fleshed out setup in the system. And, you know, if you need a specific set of information, we can create a custom report for you that'll contain just that and can be updated and downloaded on demand. We're also launching a feature shortly that'll allow the creation of custom reports yourself. So from here, you can specify, you know, I need to be able to download a CSV document containing X, Y, and Z, and then that'll become an available option for you here. But, you know, if you do want to set up some of these additional features, you know, it would be done from the configuration tab here. You know, we went from that AOA landing page that just had the club drop down to select, you know, what club you are, and it got you right into the club process. What we also have available for all clubs is a landing page. It'll look pretty basic like this and could be used right now. Essentially contain whatever information you'd like, a link to a store, a link to your own website or Facebook page or whatnot, fully customizable here. And that can be configured from the dashboard page content tab. So those could be used now if you'd like, even without any more additional setup. You just would rather direct your members to a club landing page that may have some information rather than that generic AOA landing page. That's available now. And again, all these items that I'm going to cover and mention, if you don't want to deal with the system setup yourself, you can just send us an email and we can do that for you. Over to, say, there's more styling options and whatnot, but I won't cover those now. Over to this registration categories tab, we see what currently is set up for the club. Currently just the one generic member category without any price, but here you can come and add, paid club options. I mentioned that setting up and managing events and activities and whatnot kind of looks the same from the dashboard here in Reg process. So similar process for, say, adding available options for an event or whatnot would be done here. Age, gender, capacity, lots of different configuration options available for that. This registration rules tab is where you can double check to see what the membership requirements are, the interaction with, say, AOA and what level of membership would be required for a specific category. We see now it's just a general rule for this club that all registrants need to have at least Northern Ontario Division membership with Alpine Ontario of any specific category, but this can really be broken down to specifics if needed. This registration forms tab will be where you can double check or configure more information collection, be it from all people registering with the club or specific, registration options with the club. Again, as I mentioned, lots of different ways that you can present the collection of information, be it document uploads or checkboxes or whatnot. A media release consent checkbox could be there or not. If there's team available options, that can be set up as well. We integrate with a service called Mailchimp, which is a mass email service that's pretty popular. Instead of reinventing the wheel, we kind of just integrated with their system. You can plug in your Mailchimp account information here, and as people register with the club, they'll be automatically added to your account or to a list to say, active members for this current season. So if you need to send out an email blast, that list of members from your Mailchimp account will always be kept up to date automatically with this integration. There's some advanced config options that can really give you some details or detailed configuration of the club process, a message on the cart or specific label configuration you may want to enact. If you set up a store to sell products, it can be either integrated into the club process or it can be a standalone store with a standalone URL that can be accessed, from the landing page or linked elsewhere. And kind of lastly, waiver setup where you come to configure or confirm waivers that would be club specific that people are signing. Again, this can be for a specific membership type or level or whatnot, or say all registrants with the club. Say if you have a general, COVID understanding document that you want everybody to sign this season, we can throw that in there now. It's pretty quick to set up, and then it can just ensure that everyone's signing that when they do register with the club and with AOA for the season. If you do want to set up events in the system and get kind of some more things underway, there is an event creation wizard. You can access this by going to the event tab in the dashboard and clicking this create a new event button. So if you want to really jump the gun and get some stuff set up now, you can feel free to use this. But again, and with the club setup, you can just kind of email us the details of how you would like and what you would like set up in the system, and we can kind of do that for you. As Robin mentioned, and as I've been showing all these different pages and areas of the system, it's pretty complex, but it can also be, once understood, pretty easy to use and pretty easy to say access the information you need, confirm current setup, and enact any changes. As I mentioned, I'm not going to get into the detail of the other dashboard pages that are available, but if you need to find specific user information, submit a refund through the system, create a coupon code, some sort of offline transaction management, it can all be done from the dashboard here. So if you do have any questions about what we can handle, a specific need or whatnot, feel free to let us know. You can just send an email to info@snowreg.com if you want to you know, any assistance with the setup or any questions that come to mind after this call. As I mentioned, we'll do a little Q&A section in just a few minutes here.
Yeah, and just
But,
I'll just clarify one thing, Graham, before you carry on. I think, you know, you made it pretty clear at the beginning, like the reports and the affiliation tab is mostly where people are gonna focus. But if you have specific needs from your club, like you can have that a part of the process. So say you want to know what every kid's favorite color is for your club. We can add that, you can add that as a question to the process so that every kid's got to answer what their favorite color is. That wouldn't be reflected on all the other clubs' registrations. That's something specific to you. So there's a lot of flexibility here for you guys to utilize the system for your club specifically outside of just collecting, you know, the fees for AOA, the division and ACA. So, but if you're just coming in, like you've got your own system at your club where you're collecting all your program fees, your camp fees, you've got a system already built, then those two tabs are really the only ones you're going to require. But if you're interested in learning a little bit more about using SnowReg to do that stuff for you, your SnowReg can help you with that. So I hope that clarifies a few things. I had a few questions about that.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, just to doubly confirm what Robin just mentioned, you know, if you already have your system, you're happy with that, you know, you can essentially just bookmark, say, this page for the list of active AOA members that affiliate with your club, and can visit this. And then if you need to pull that information from the system, just this reports tab. So that's all ready to go and is currently working. So if you need access to that, you know, let Robin know. But yep, that's good to go. And all the stuff I kind of just covered, as Robin mentioned, this is just additional setup, but it doesn't have to be paid items either. You know, we don't require you to collect money through the system. So if you want to throw that stuff in there, you know, it's not going to cost you anything and could alleviate some administrative burden if you don't have a fully featured registration system currently set up for your club. But kind of the last thing that I was going to touch here before we kind of answer some questions here would be what we're working on, Robin and I, for COVID attestations and tracking. So what we envision and plan, would be either someone registering for an event in our system, in an external system. It doesn't really matter, but there would be one event registration, that's taking place, a couple weeks out or months out, however you have that and whenever you open up registration proper. And then the day before an event actually happens, the night before, people will need to make an attestation about, answering some questions about, their exposure. Do they have COVID? Yada, yada. These would be, government required and safe sport required attestation questions. And then, usually an agreement type waiver that would be signed as well. We have a basic setup of what that looks like in a registration process, kind of what we went through for a club process. If Robin wants me to take a quick run through that, I can, but just in respect to time, it looks pretty much the same. It's pretty quick. There's not going to be a paid portion for this, but they'd come in and answer those questions, sign an agreement, and that's essentially all that the end participant would have to do. But this would only open for them the night before. It would be locked down that they have to do this in a specific time frame before the event actually starts. Then they come in, they do their declaration or whatnot. The day of the event, we have someone that's going to be admitting people to the event or whatnot, and they'd be able to pull up a little tool that looks like this. It can be done on your mobile phone or whatnot, and it'll give you a list of who actually registered and completed those attestations the day before. It'll show that they signed the. You can check out and see what some of their responses were to those questions. We have functionality that if someone answers the question incorrectly, like says, yes, I do have COVID, you'll receive an email notification. So if they do that at say 9 p.m. the night before, you'll immediately receive an email that says, hey, bar this person from, attending tomorrow as best as possible. We can't enact anything that'll restrict the person physically, but, you'll receive a notification at least that this person shouldn't be coming and and whatnot. But back to, the day of, you'd have a list here of people that were registered. Hopefully you would have checked if anyone shouldn't be there at all, but you'll see who had completed that and who had signed the agreement. And then if they're coming, they're good to attend, you can essentially check this check-in button. Are you sure you want to check them in? Yes, they checked into the event. And then this list of individuals who had, say, registered and made a unique attestation for an event or whatnot, and will be tracked, and that information will remain in the system. And then again, who had been checked in, like who had actually been there, someone saw them come and attend, and literally checked them in through this feature. So what that gives us is quite a lot of ground coverage in terms of covering our behinds, so to speak. Making sure that the declaration was done in the required time frame, that notifications go out if incorrect information is submitted during one of those attestations, and then on the day of, a list of and a record of who actually was there and participated and attended the event. So as I mentioned, this is still something that we're working on, what the sort of base level functionality will have to be for each club, and we're getting pretty close. So this could be available as early as next week if you want to start or are running events and want to take advantage of this. But as I go back to kind of the flexibility of the system, if the club has specific requirements around this, where you want to make additions to how this feature would work or whatnot, we can work together to kind of customize that for your specific needs. Management of this and configuration of how it would work would be done through a similar UI that we just looked at for, say, the club registration process. You would, add specific activities that would be locked down, with the date and time. So say if it's a Thursday night practice that these attestations are being done for, someone can visit, one page every Wednesday to do their attestation. You're not going to be needing to send out different URLs on a weekly basis for people to come and do these attestations. For the end user, they can say bookmark one page, come in and complete it every Wednesday evening before the Thursday night practice. So from an end participant standpoint, it's not too complicated of a process. They just have to do it. And then for the end club or event organizer, it's not that difficult either. You receive an email notification if things look fishy. If nothing's fishy on the day of, you just have to check them in here, and then that'll all be kept in the system. And then, we can work together to kind of set it all up in advance. So the specific times and days of the attestations that need to be signed for can all be set up ahead of time. So once that's kind of complete for the season, you'll be able to make some modifications here and there if needed, but it'll all be kind of ready to go for the remaining of the season if you are doing it for something like a practice that's going to be happening on a weekly basis. So
yeah. So to interject, Graham, this will be a tool that any of the clubs can use for training as well. So if you have, like Graham said, if you have Thursday night training, you can use this platform for any event if that kids and any of your members are coming to, and that this will be the system that we'll want to use for AOA sanctioned events. And like I said at the beginning, we know some clubs already have a system that they will want to use and continue to use. So when we get down to logistics of whether or not, if ADNAC already has a system and we're having an AOA event there, will a parent and athlete have to complete two systems, or will ADNAC take their ADNAC specific questions integrated into the AOA attestation? So it's just one place they've got to access it. So those are some logistics we still have to work out, because we recognize that some people are already going to have systems they're using. But for those of you that don't have systems yet, this will be something you can use for the season for COVID attestations. And we'll have it ready to go and set up with sort of our COVID template. And then, so you can just use that without altering it, or you can add any specific regional health unit questions or resort club specific questions you need answered as well.
Yeah, and Robin just mentioned, this is something we're still working on, what the kind of base template that will just kind of give everybody automatically access to. So that hasn't been kind of given to your accounts yet. But if you say you need to get going with this, or you want to get going with this, send Robin an email with your needs, and kind of the base functionality is pretty much figured out. So we can get this going pretty quick if the need is hot. Yeah, so essentially that's what I wanted to cover. Robin, if there's anything I missed, let me know now. I know my colleague Ashley just joined us, so he can give us a tour of the coach functionality. Maybe you want to take some time for some questions now, Robin. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple questions in the chat. Victoria asked if the waivers or questions at a club, do we need to contact someone at SnowReg to set it up? You'll be able to do that, Victoria, directly yourself within the system. I'm not sure if those permissions have been given yet, Graham, but I'm pretty sure you're able to do that yourself.
Yeah, for sure. At any time you can set that up. If you don't have access to the club process in the system, just send Robin an email and we'll make sure you get that right now. But yeah, essentially, it would look something like this. You can set up the forms, that would request information from individuals in the registration process. From this tab, or double check what's set up. As I mentioned, you can just send us an email what you want enacted to, and we can kind of set that up while we're getting the system figured out. But again, something that you can add from yourself. And again, for the waivers from this tab here, we do have a knowledge base.
We can't see your screen, Graham. You stop sharing.
Oh, there you go. Good call. I'll share this just one more time here. What I was just talking to myself about was, coming to the club page here will look much like this declaration template page, and you can view and add registration forms, which is the information collection, from this page. And then for waivers from this page, we can see what's set up and edit or add the new waiver and agreement. So this can be done by yourself, but as I mentioned, you can let us know. What I was just getting to was our knowledge base that we have available. So there's a lot of wealth of knowledge here. If you want an overview of kind of the administrative tools and where you may look to add some of that information to the club registration process, you can pull this up, and it's a quick little guide here as well. But again, you can contact us with any questions, and we can help you out on that front too.
Graham, can you drop that URL into the chat?
I can. I was just looking for the chat on Zoom here.
Can you not
there
see
we go. I got it here.
Yeah, you got it. I know Jane is having trouble. She's the race administrator at Osler, is having trouble seeing the Affiliation Club tab on her page. So once you drop that into the chat, do you mind just showing one more time, Graham, how you get to that Affiliation Club tab?
Yeah, for sure. One second here. Sorry, I was just accidentally sending Jeff Hall a direct message. You can ignore that, Jeff. I just put the
there we go. Got it now.
In the chat there.
Awesome.
I'm going to take a quick brief of the chat. I didn't have that open while I was doing my presentation. My apologies. But yeah, if you want to just find the affiliation tab, you go to the club page in the system there. I'm just going to find one that I know has that. As again, I pick one that doesn't have this.
And why wouldn't they have it yet?
Because they wouldn't be set up as an affiliate against, say, a membership organization in the system. We can say this is an Alpine Ski Club with Alpine Ontario that has been set up, to integrate with the memberships. So you go to the club tab, pick your club, and then this affiliation/club tab will give you that list, and then that reports tab is where you can come in and download that CSV document containing that information. Yeah.
So Jane, if you still don't see that, let me know and we'll look into it. So Jane's from Osler, Graham. Bruce asks, is there any way to get the club dashboard without using the link from Alpine Ontario? I'm not entirely sure what you're asking, Bruce. So if you want to unmute yourself and ask the question.
Yeah, the club dashboard, if I understand this correctly, it's a separate process. What the club has access to is already set up, and what I went through today is already ready to go in the system. So you may just need access for it under your account. So you can send Robin an email about that, and we can give you those permissions today even, so you can get in and access this. Just going through the chat, as I had missed these during my presentation, I'll just quickly address some of the questions here. Victoria asked if there's a cost for adding club fees to be collected through SnowReg. We do have processing fees that apply for fee collection. So this would be, you know, credit card processing fees, and then a little bit for us to operate as a business. So I can get you the pricing plans that we have available for AOA in an email if you want to reach out to us about that, and we can give you some visibility about that. You know, we integrate with a service called WePay for actually dispersing your money. So everything we collect on your behalf, it's super flexible in specifying how you want it and how frequently you get it. So it could be, you know, a weekly deposit, a daily deposit, or whatnot. That is pretty versatile in the way you can flesh that out. So let us know if you want some information on what those fees look like for clubs and events. You know, a COVID agreement being part of the registrations already. As part of the AOA specific waiver that we looked at when we were going through the registration process, there is a COVID agreement portion of that. So they have been signing that. Everyone who's registered thus far has signed that. You will be able to access that in the system, I believe. I'll double check with Robin before I double check under your accounts. But yes, they have been signing that agreement. Let me just go through here. Oh, you were answering these as well, Robin.
I was
Thanks.
answering a lot of them. Yeah, I think the Jeff Hall's having trouble with his permissions. So Jeff, I think that's something we just have to take offline and make sure that you're using the right user profile to access the admin permissions. I think that's part of a lot of people's confusion too, Graham, if they're using like a personal profile versus their club administrator profile. I mean, you could wrap it all into one and have all your permissions attached to one account. You don't have to have separate ones for everything.
Yeah, the permissions are, you know, account dependent. So that is my recommendation. You know, if you have multiple accounts, we'd be happy to kind of merge them into one account for you. But, you know, as an administrator, as someone who's probably registering for an AOA membership yourself, I do recommend just to make sure you're not saying, oh man, I'm in the wrong account constantly. We just combine those. There's no real issue at all with the overlap. You'll just kind of only have one email address associated with your one account in the system. So if you currently have multiple ones, maybe if you're not seeing that tab, you know, you can email me direct, or we'll go through Robin just to make sure I'm assigning people the appropriate permissions, but just let Robin know about permissions. Say if you have two accounts available already and it just needs to be amalgamated, you can send me an email directly at Graham@Interpodia or Graham@snowreg.com, and we can get that kind of merged together for you so you just have the one account.
Great. Juliet asked for the club sanctioning if multiple attachments can be uploaded. So in the individual ones, no, but Graham just added an additional upload function. So if you have multiple attachments, you've got something else you want to upload during the club sanctioning process, you can now. I think you just enacted that this week.
Yeah, that was just enacted this week, and I'm gonna even do a little more of an update to that where you can upload as many documents as you want. Essentially, I have a little idea I'm gonna put in there, but now you can add more attachments if you hadn't. You know, for Juliet, if you want to add things that, you know, to your previous application, if you go to this permits page on the dashboard here, you'll be able to access your permit and upload a document. I'm not going to get into one of these just because there could be some sensitive information there, but from this permits tab, Juliet, if you want to go and upload an additional document, that'll be available for you now from your permit in the dashboard here.
Great. There's been a couple questions, Graham, about viewing members by age group. And I didn't think on that Affiliation Club tab, you can sort them by age group. Basically, it's just their name, their membership number, and that. I think you could sort it by date of registration. But at this point in the system, without creating a custom report, the way to sort by age group is you'd have to download that CSV report and sort it, correct?
Yes. Another option that you could do would be just going to the
That's
page.
a tool. That's a tool a lot of our administrators just want to see, like how many, like they want to have all their U12s together on a screen. As an example.
Yeah, let me just put this. It's on the wrong tab. So one option you can do is I'm just gonna just let's registration breakdown. There is a registration breakdown you can go to that'll show you like the age breakdown of members. I'll make sure that's working for the clubs now. But another option, if you go to manage registrations, I'm pretty sure you can sort by registered age groups. But probably what's going to be easiest is what Robin mentioned. If you download this club reports, it'll kind of give you the list of their ages and age groups and kind of what the specific AOA membership they hold is. So the easiest way, if you download this report, you can just sort that column and have that all in an appropriate list there. But again, from the affiliation/club tab, you can click this details button and that'll pop open some membership details that'll include what age group that they're in with AOA. So you can do that on an individual basis from that tab. But as we mentioned, the reports tab here is probably easiest if you want the full list there. You can pull that out there.
So when they're able to make custom reports, they'll be able to make that a report function when you guys have that option available, right?
Yes, yeah, that'll be forthcoming there as well.
Yeah, so even if you wanted to pull off all your email addresses for all your members, you could just pull a report off that just had email addresses on it. So, so that functionality is still coming, everybody.
Yeah, Jane asked about credit card charges being either added on to. There's essentially an option. We can have that added on to the price of the registration. So say if you're offering $100 registration for this event, we can pass some fees on to the member that would be a percentage base added on top of that cost, or it can be absorbed by your organization. So you can say make that registration $110 and then absorb the fees. So you're essentially passing it on to the end registrant, but they're not seeing that as a kind of a line item on their order. There's a lot of flexibility that would be, up to you to decide how you want to put that on there. Back to the shopping cart for the registration we went through, we saw that say AOA and ACA are having those added on to those prices and those are displayed on the cart. But as I mentioned, you can have those kind of absorbed into your purchase prices as well there.
Yeah, so any time, as per typically on online systems these days, there's a fee associated with paying. So there will be those fees on there. So like Graham said, we have the opportunity to either pass it on to the user to pay, or the club or AOA, whoever's running the event, can absorb it. So that's a decision that that you guys have to make, but we've opted to pass those charges on.
Yeah, and Jeff, I'm just reading your messages here. It looks like that could, you have an account that was set up for the coaching access and whatnot. I'm just going to send you my email address. Well, I'll put it in the chat here if anyone else wants it. But Jeff,
watch out, Graham. You're going to get a flood. You're going to get a flood of emails now.
That's all right. That's all right. But Jeff, if you want to just send me those details in an email, I may have to just consult my colleague Ashley to configure or to double check the coaching permission access and stuff. But we'll get that cleaned up this afternoon for you and make sure you have appropriate access. Yeah.
I think that was the end of the questions I saw in the chat. Does anyone have any others? And we're going to go on to Graham's colleague, Ashley, who is going to just take us on a bit of a tour of the coach back end, so you can check your coach's registration. So this is where those like multiple permissions come in. It's a different, I don't know what to call it, Graham. It's a different platform, different database, but it is separate from ours. So it just requires that extra step of permissions, but you can still attach it to the same administrative account.
Yeah, again, a separate organization system, as I've highlighted a couple times. So, as I mentioned, my colleague Ashley's been working on the coach stuff. I've been working with AOA. We're not always sitting next to each other. So maybe there's two accounts created for you or whatnot, but say in Jeff's case, that's probably the case. He just had two different accounts with different access to these two organizations in the system. Maybe some wires got crossed. If that's happening for you, or you have two accounts that you're using and want them amalgamated, just let us know and we can clean that up for you and make sure there's one account to access all the different organizations that you do have access to in the system. Yeah. Cool. Well, yeah. Unless there's any other questions right now, Ashley, are you here with us?
I am. Yeah. Can everyone hear me?
Yeah.
Perfect. Nice to be chatting with you all.
Ashley, do you want to share your screen at all?
Yeah, absolutely. That would be great.
So I'm just gonna, I think I can make you a co-host as well.
Yeah, looks good.
Yeah, so you should be able to, thanks for joining us too, Ashley.
Of course, yeah. What exactly do I do to share my
It's so
screen?
funny you guys don't use Zoom. You tech guys don't use Zoom. It's pretty funny.
It should be at the bottom. You can highlight. There's a little menu that'll open up if you.
Oh, screen share.
Yeah.
That should have been pretty obvious.
Magic.
We don't pay Ashley much though.
Okay, are you guys able?
Yeah, we can see it, but for some reason I can't hear you now.
Oh, okay. Is that
There you
better?
go. Got you now.
Okay, perfect. All right, so yeah, I'm not 100% familiar with exactly how much of the system you guys have seen or what you're anticipating seeing, but how about I run through a high-level agenda and you can let me know if I'm on the right track. So what I was planning on showing you is our development environment. So you're seeing basically the configuration that Alpine Canada Coaching has set up, but in our development environment. So I can show you a little bit of dummy data. So I'm not actually showing actual coaches. And then my plan was to show you really a club and some of the stuff actually I think Graham has already shown you, but really just how a club would see their coaches and then what other sort of information and reports they could pull. And then I can show you what it would look like for a coach logging into their account as well. Is that essentially along the right track of what you guys want to see?
That's super.
Okay, cool. So a lot of crossover here of what you've already seen from Graham. But if I was to go into clubs and then click on this Apex Ski Club, it does flip over to events in the navigation, which is quite annoying. It really shouldn't do that, but it does right now, even though I'm in a club. So what you're seeing is you've got two sort of different types of ways someone can become affiliated with a club. They can either become a full-on member, in which case you're sort of doing registration on our platform as well, or they can just be affiliated with the club. And this year right now, Alpine Canada Coaching is doing both. They're having people who go through their membership or their coaching process to renew their membership, choose their affiliated club. And when they do that, it gives that person a registration in the club. It also affiliates them with that club. Likely next year, we're going to be changing that. It isn't, because you got two different things managing essentially the same thing, there's pros and cons. But ultimately, I'm going to be trying to move them just to affiliating their members with a specific club. And I think you've seen that in the affiliation tab here. That's where you can see all your affiliated members. The difference being that sometimes clubs have maybe the affiliation is an optional thing, and sometimes the club is really doing registration on our platform where they want to capture their own fees, and so they've got their own process. In Alpine Canada Coaching's case right now, everyone is going through, and as they're renewing their coach member or becoming a coach, they're choosing their club, but we're not doing any actual club fee capture or anything like that. So there really isn't a strong need to create that registration. The only reason we're doing it is ACA is new to the platform. They wanted the most flexibility and the most options of reporting possible. And you do get more reports if you actually have registrations with the club. But the downside is you now have people who don't necessarily show up in your affiliation list, but who are registered in the club. And that's because the affiliation list only shows you issued members. So if someone has signed up for the club, they've actually got their registration completed, but they haven't completed all their membership requirements, they can still show up in the they can show up in the registration list, but not the affiliation list. It creates a little bit of confusion. Long story short, we're probably moving in the future just to this affiliation option. So what we're seeing here is a couple different sort of people who are coaches associated with this club. And I'll just click on the details of one of them, and I've modified all of his information so you won't see his actual information about his personal data. But what you see is a slightly different interface here. And this is actually because we're in our development environment. So you will see this for regular members as well if you've got provincial or national memberships. this page is going to be looking different in a couple weeks here once this is deployed. But what's key from a coaching standpoint is you may want to see that all of the coaches associated with your club have completed all of their membership requirements. Now, another thing we're doing is allowing the affiliations area to show this information, but also show it on coaches that maybe haven't completed all their requirements. So you may want to come here and say, okay, well, what is this individual missing? Well, they've completed all their waivers, but maybe they haven't completed a background check, or maybe they're missing some professional development credits, or whatever else it might be. And I'll show you an example of that shortly here. But I think the main thing is that we're building this in a way where you get a lot more information. You can see all the waivers that the coach has agreed to. Now, one thing you won't be able to do is edit any of this information. If you're an administrator of the club and you're not an administrator of the membership organization, the provincial body or national body that's really owning the coach membership, then you'll be able to see this membership information, but you will not be able to edit the person's name or details. You will not be able to edit or add notes on the account. You won't be able to edit the status of their membership or anything like that. But you will be able to see, as I mentioned, all the membership requirements, all their waivers, what type of membership they have, and then any of their other information like the affiliates, if they've got more affiliates than just your club, and any questions that they've answered in the process as well. So that's sort of the first step, is that your coaches or your clubs can see all of the coaches that are affiliated with the club, and they can see all of the information that is basically stored against that coach membership. Now, in addition to that, let me just bring up one where, oh, this is a good one actually. Yeah, so here's just an example of what you'd also be able to see if the person was missing some requirements. And this is in our current UI. So this is what you guys are used to seeing, but you probably don't see all these membership requirements. So ACA has 3 waivers. I'm sure you guys are familiar with how those waivers work. I saw Graham showing a few of those. But they also have these coach-specific membership requirements. And this sort of ties into the new module we were building for Alpine Canada coaching over the summer. And it ties into our integration with Sterling background check. So you can make sure that every single one of the coaches does have their a valid background check on file from within a specific date range. In Alpine Canada's case, it must be from September 1st, 2019, so that it's valid until August 31st, 2021, which is their entire season. Then I'm not going to go into too much detail on the professional development credits or the risk management credits, but maybe I'll talk about the safe sport requirement. Basically, and I don't know how much detail you guys want me to go into here, but basically the coaching side of things, is the coaching world really is changing quite a lot right now. And there's a strong need to make sure that all coaches are meeting safe in sport requirements and background checks and just other sort of checks and balances are in place to make sure this person really should be coaching athletes and you know, doing all the things that coaches do, where they're working with children sometimes and all that. So basically, the Safe in Sport requirement is a module run by the Coaching Association of Canada, and we have a direct integration with them so that when someone completes that module, the data is brought into Alpine Canada's coaching system and automatically sort of brings across an ID, the NCCP number of the person, the module ID connects to an ID in our system, and then the date of completion. And so all that comes across and then automatically updates this requirement for the person. Now they can also, on the administration side, see these pop-ups. Now these exist in the process. So as someone's becoming a coach, they can see which requirements they've already met and which ones are outstanding. And they can see these pop-ups and get a little bit more information. And this is completely customizable to the organization. In this case, it would just send them to the Coaching Association of Canada website. And then you can also see those from the coach profile. So we'll take a look at that in a minute here. And so that's sort of the safety and sport requirement. It's a very simple structure where we have a single module in the CAC system coming across when someone completes it over there, and that updates their membership requirement. The others are quite a bit more complicated in the sense that at minimum certification level, this requirement here, it can be based on a number of different things. There's a series of courses that you might have to take, and they've got sort of and or logic identifying what those specific courses are. And when someone completes all that, they've sort of met that first pathway and they've become EL trained or entry level trained, and that gives them this minimum certification level. The professional development and risk management credits are along the same lines, but instead of the system caring about which specific courses you've completed, it just looks at the credits you've gained from any of your courses within a certain time frame. And as long as you have, in their case, I believe it's 4 professional development credits and 1 risk management credit within the last 16 months or so, I think. And it is a fixed date range. It's not a rolling date range based on the current date. Then you meet those requirements. And this was all very important to ACA because of both the need for insurers to be certain that every single coach has met all of these requirements, but also just so that they have better data on their coaches and know that when someone is licensed for the season or their membership is issued, that they can be out there coaching on snow. So I think I won't go into any more detail on these at this point in time, but it's a very flexible module that can handle a lot of different configuration options. So I'm not sure if you guys are thinking that for your officials or anything like that, but if you are just wanting to know how ACA is using it for their coaches, that gives you a fairly good high-level overview of that. So what I'll do now is I'll just jump over to the coach profile for a second. So within the coach profile, there's a couple things. I mean, it's just a person's profile, right? The only thing that makes it a coach profile is the fact they have a coach membership. But you can see that here. If I go to memberships and licenses, I have a few different people under my account. But if I scroll down to John Doe, John's memberships, I've got this notification that something's outstanding on that membership. And I scroll down and see, okay, well, for John, there's a ACA Canadian Ski Coaches membership that's pending requirements. I go into manage and then view edit membership. And just like we saw on the administrator dashboard, but in a slightly different UI, we can see the different requirements that that membership has, and I can see how to complete those requirements. So if it was a safe and sport requirement that I wanted more information on, I click how to complete, and again, that same content pops up here, and we can go over to the Coaching Association of Canada from there if needed. And that's just a custom link. You could make that whatever you want. The background check one is fairly interesting. It actually allows you to buy a background check directly from the button in the pop-up. And it will allow you to choose the person under your account that needs the background check and then add it to your cart. And then when you check out, it automatically sends the candidate information to Sterling Backcheck, and they send you an email to the email address of that individual. So you could have multiple people under your account, potentially a spouse, a child, and if you bought it for your spouse and she had a different, or he had a different email on file, then it would go to that email address, they would complete their background check, and once completed, our system would get information back through our API with them, and it would update the background check and mark it as complete. And also give you result information as a green, red, or amber flag that also can be configured just so that you have an idea of what that really means. Did they meet, you know, was everything perfectly clear? Was there some component that is maybe is worth looking into in more detail? Or was there a section that they entirely failed? But we don't get the details on that in our system. all we get is the result, whether it's completed or not, and we get the red, amber, or green flag so that you can go to Sterling and get more information. What I'll do now is jump back over. Oh, actually, no, sorry. I want to show you one more thing here.
There were a couple questions in the chat as well, Ashley, if you want to maybe check it out.
Oh, sure.
Aaron asked if clubs can have more than one login to check progress. I'm sure that's fine. Like if a head coach wanted it and the race administrator wanted access, that's probably fine. You can probably allocate as many permission accounts to an association as you want, I would imagine.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you can have, it's really just tied into the organization. So you can go into the financials and accounting area and view the organization there, and you can add as many system administrators or financial controllers that you want.
And I suspect that's something maybe that we have to do, like it has to be requested through AOA. I don't know if can clubs do that themselves and add another administrator?
Yeah, clubs can add an administrator to their specific account.
Okay.
So as long as they are set up with an organization, and if they haven't processed any money, sometimes it's hard to see that area.
Got it. You're right. And a lot of our clubs won't have used it from a financial perspective. So that's something like Graham and I can, Jenny says she was able to add another administrator, so she figured it out. Well done.
Nice.
Well done,
Yeah, it should be pretty self-serve. It depends on the level of permissions. Like ACA has a very sort of complex way of managing their permissions. So they have a number of different user groups, and we're trying to streamline that and make it as easy as possible for them to self-serve, but there still are a few cases where our staff have to intervene and go into the back end and sort of put people in specific user groups.
Yeah, and I see Jane seems to be having, Jane from Osler seems to have issue seeing the membership affiliation club page as well as the coach progress. So Jane, I'll get Graham and maybe Ashley to look into Osler's profile there and figure out why you can't see that stuff.
Yeah, for the coaching stuff, you know, if you have really specific questions about this access and management, it would be best to just message Ashley directly. He's kind of the mastermind behind all this.
Yeah. And I have, and so everyone's aware too, we weren't giving coach database access until you club affiliated. Now I'm a little behind. So I apologize for that. But every Friday I was just kind of taking the clubs that had affiliated since last Friday and sending you the privacy agreement link that you need to agree to before you're given permissions. And I'm going to assume, Ashley, that once a club or an administrator signs that privacy agreement, does it automatically give them access, or do you have to manually sort of check it? Like, yes, they've got access.
It depends. Greg is doing more and more of that at ACA.
Okay.
So, but yeah, please make sure that you've connected with him before you share the link to their sort of opt-in, where you have to agree to the privacy policy. I'm not sure exactly how that's being managed between AOA
Greg
and ACA.
Greg and I have talked about that. So that's the way we're managing it. I'm kind of, once the club's affiliated, I send the permissions for coaching out. But like I said, I'm behind, so I'll get on that tomorrow. Aaron asked, is there an opportunity to sync with CAO or NCCP or self-report education records like Respect in Sport? There's a loaded question for you, Graham or Ashley.
It really depends. So some of the NCCP courses are only run by the CAC, like the Safe in Sport currently. So we don't really have any control over whether those are self-declared or not. I'm not even really too familiar with how they run events over there. But Greg has sort of rebuilt the entire CAC course type structure in our database. So and this is not so applicable to the NCC specific courses, but for any other courses like, you know, your entry-level train course or anything like that, that is a course that's run by ACA, they have the flexibility to say, is the course self-declared, or does it require someone to evaluate each participant, or, you know, how it's configured. So yeah, I mean, I could look at a few specifics back in the database, but Greg is really the expert on it, so I'd have to sort of defer some of that question over to him.
Yeah, that's fine.
But Yeah, just in regards to the information that is flowing from the CAC to us, yeah, a number of those NCCP courses, managing conflict, I don't know them all off the top of my head, ethical decision making or something like that.
Making ethical decisions. Yeah, you're
Making
doing
ethical
well. You're doing
decisions,
well.
yeah, okay. I mean, I should know them. I've been working with those guys for quite a while now,
Yeah.
but a number of those, about 8 or 10 that are run by the CAC, do automatically have their course records flow into SnowReg. And that was only finished configuration this morning. So if you are hearing from people that they've completed their course, but they're not seeing the completion record in their profile, that could just be because the configuration wasn't fully complete until today. But yes, a number of those flow in that direction. And then all of the EL courses, DL courses, PL courses, and a whole bunch of others go in the opposite direction. So they're courses that are being run by the PTSOs and by Alpine Canada on SnowReg. And when someone completes a course record of those courses, that is sent over to the CAC in a daily process as well, so that the pathways are updated in their system. I hope that's answered the question.
So.
Any other questions in the chat? I didn't actually bring it up here.
I'm just getting clarification. Bruce asked if the listing says approved, does it mean the affiliation process is complete? I'm not sure if he's asking about the coach database or the AOA club affiliation process. Are you, can you unmute yourself, Bruce?
I'm on the club page, Robin.
So like, are you affiliating as an AOA club or are you talking about a coach specifically?
Club.
Okay.
I think Bruce is just referring to like when you're on the club page of the dashboard, it'll say like your club name, and then the listing, there'll be like a header listing status, and it'll be approved. That just means that, yeah, the listing for the club is approved alongside the club process, which all of the clubs are currently approved in the system,
Yeah.
because it's open for registration. The AOA current system we ran through, that's, you know, just the basic club affiliation. So if that is the correct spot I'm getting to, essentially, yes, it is approved and the affiliation process is complete for the club. Yeah.
Thank you.
So I just wanted to show one more thing here in the user account settings. If I go into, and I wonder if I did actually finish this. Oh, maybe I didn't. I was planning on configuring this right before the meeting. Let me see if I can find someone else. What I wanted to show you was, yeah, the attributes and records for the coach profiles. So in addition to basic information like your dual member status as an ACA and CSIA member, or your, I don't know, SnowPro ID, which is an ID that's used by the CSIA, you can also see all of your coach level history here as well, when you've achieved certain levels. And if you give me a second, I can quickly configure that just to show you what it would look like. If I find the right tab here. Oops. Oh yeah, okay. So this is John Doe. Yeah. So if I just turn, actually this is worth seeing too. So this isn't something you guys would be managing, but it might be worth knowing that it exists. So for Alpine Canada, and actually you can see this, I'm sure Greg doesn't want you modifying any of this information, but you can, once you've gone through their privacy policy agreement and you've been given access to ACA information to view it, you can see the ACA CSC coach attributes and the coach certifications. So you just go in to find any of your user account profiles, you find the member you're interested in, and click on them, and then you can see all of these attributes. And so you could see, you know, if they're flagged as a 25-year member, you could see if they've completed their club affiliation for 2020, 2021, if they're a dual member, et cetera, et cetera. But more important than those could be the coach certification level. So again, I'm on the development site here, so the data is not really all that important. But if I was to go in and again, you probably shouldn't do this. This is more of a Greg thing. And really, a lot of this is automated through our certification management tool, which is pretty cool, and actually looks at all of your course record history and says, do you meet the conditions of the specific level? And then if so, you get the attribute automatically, and you shouldn't really be having to do any kind of manual manipulation. And in fact, we've built it in a way where if you try to do manual manipulation, the process that runs and checks against your levels will actually pull that attribute back if you don't meet the conditions. So it's a bit future-proof in that sense, and tries to avoid any human intervention and human error. But that should be enough for me just to jump back over on this profile here and give you guys a quick view of, yeah, there we go. So now looking at John Doe's profile, I can see in his attributes and record section when he completed entry-level trained, entry-level certified, and performance level trained. And obviously it's just dummy data. But
now, what part of the attribute shows in the public lookup on the front end of Alpine Canada's website? Ashley, so everyone's aware, there's a function on Alpine Canada's website where you can go and look up like coach's status, a public status. But I think all it says is, does it just say like current or status is up to date or something like, doesn't give like the levels that the coach is that correct?
Correct. Yeah, I'll try and bring it up here really quickly and double check what information shows there, because I know they're not showing very much information.
Yeah, it's not a lot.
I don't recall exactly what they're showing.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's down at the bottom here. Find a coach. Yeah, so they're just really showing the person's name, their membership number, and then the status.
Got it. That's been issued.
And which group they have. Yeah, that's
Got
right.
it.
And issued in our terminology equates to licensed in their terminology, or
Right.
in your guys'
Right. Got it. Just so everyone was aware of that. I don't know if everyone
it's kind of
knew.
cool. Like,
Yeah, I didn't know if everyone knew that was there. So
yeah, so this is a real-time, accurate directory of coaches that have completed all their membership requirements. And if anything changes and someone is no longer in good standing, and you go and change their membership status to pending requirements, or I don't know, suspended or whatever else,
yeah.
or a different membership requirement is no longer met, like say they have only 4 professional development credits, and you cancel one of their registrations and refund them because they didn't actually show up or whatever, and now they only have 3, it will automatically pull them out of the directory.
Got it. Okay, well, that's pretty savvy.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
There's I'm not sure what else you want to show, Ashley, but we've got a couple questions about, and this may be more of a Greg question. When clubs, like a lot of clubs provide in-house education credits, are they going to be able to upload that into the system, or is that something that's got to come through us? Like I know ACA would have to approve of it, but the old system, a club could enter in the information, ACA would approve it, and they would upload their coaches that attended that event. Do you know how that's going to work this year?
I hesitate to give too much information because it should come from Greg.
I thought that was a Greg question, so I'll talk to Greg about that.
What I can say is Greg has the ability to do an import of course records through an Excel file. So if you do have a number of coaches that you want to give certain credits to, as long as he has a course type that's configured, like it would probably be a PD course type, that's configured with the right credit amounts, then he can let you know what that should be in the Excel template, and then you can fill it out and give it back to him and he can load it.
Okay.
The other option is you can do a manual registration in the dashboard, but I don't want to show you that just in case Greg doesn't want you doing that.
Sure, no, that's fair. Yeah, so you guys can poke around and see if you can figure it out, or I'll get the details from Greg. But we ran some spring coach webinars that I sent him a big Excel spreadsheet a while ago to get the credits allocated for everybody. But he didn't send me like a template, so I'm going to ask for that. So I'll get back to you. I think Laura, Michelle, and Jane all asked the same question. So, but I'll get that out en masse to everybody.
Yeah, and honestly, the import's going to be a much better way of handling that if you've got a lot of data. The one-off registrations, you have to go find the person. And
this was 135 coaches that participated in our spring webinar session. So yeah, I don't want to do that one at a time.
I wouldn't be surprised if he's already loaded it. But yeah, ping Greg and see. I know he's been doing a number of loads like that, so I'm not sure if
Okay.
it's that specific one, but
He kind
he
of
may
wanted
have.
to use it as a bit of a beta test anyway, so I'll follow up with him. That's great.
Oh, cool. That was mostly what I wanted to show you.
Okay.
Just really the club interface. The PSO report, but I think Graham already showed that. So
Yep.
that's where you can also get information on coaches. And then the affiliation tab.
In the membership database, when you do your report, does that download the coaches that are affiliated with your club as well, or just the athletes?
It really depends which club you're in. So they have a separate list of clubs
Right.
that they affiliate with.
Right.
So if I was to go here,
it's not linked to the our membership database. So I think.
Right.
I think
That's
the
correct.
answer is no.
Yeah, that's right. But it's something to consider, right? Like we've got this Apex Ski Club Alpine Coaches 2020-2021. So that's kind of the naming convention we used for all of the clubs that are part of the affiliation process with ACA. But there's probably Apex in here that represents, I guess that's probably not Ontario. Is there what's an Ontario club?
Adnac, Alpine Ski Club, Craigleaf, Osler.
Okay, yeah, Adnac's a good example. So yeah, there's two different club objects. One that represents the thing you can affiliate with as a coach. And I mean, it'd be interesting to see if we could combine that maybe next year just to keep it simpler.
Keep it streamlined, yeah.
Yeah, but
that was my hope too, to find a solution for that for next season, Ashley, that we kind of meet this process, in a couple months once things have kind of smoothed out a little bit and find a way to combine that into kind of one area for next season.
Yeah, I think it would make a lot of sense. It would just be easier to manage, the reports and the access and everything else.
Yeah, for sure.
Now,
especially now, like it used to be so fragmented with all the different databases we were using. So being able to streamline it down, like we're getting there. So hopefully that will get easier in the near future.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah. The only other question I see here is from Victoria. It sounds like it's a loaded question here from Victoria. I know you've been in touch with Sarah Edwards about it, Victoria. She's had some issues with coaches affiliating that have paid their dues. Clubs when they have paid dues on Snow Pro, so dual or triple members.
Okay.
Seems that issues that some coaches use personal emails for Snow Pro CSA accounts and club emails for their SnowReg account. Is there a way around them creating a second SnowReg account and then merging them in order to affiliate with the club? So yeah, I think I can't. Ashley or Graham, I think, can merge them. But I'm saying that from the membership perspective. Graham, I don't know if they can be, or Ashley, I don't know if they can be merged on the coach side. So I'm not going to say yes.
Yes. So you can have a single account on SnowReg that can be for your athlete information, your coach information, your administrator information. It can all be under a single account if you want.
Okay.
Yeah, but yeah,
and that's what we recommend as well too. Like I mentioned when we were talking about that, just for the say club administration and potentially end member account, kind of keep it in one place. And if people do have multiple accounts, that's kind of one of the downsides of doing all these projects kind of together but a little bit separately, is some people may have separate accounts created or created their own account. So as Ashley just mentioned, we can kind of combine that all and just keep everything in one place, and it'll be kind of a bit of a learning pain here while we get things going, just having to do that and communicate to us of what needs to be combined. But once that's done and set up, it won't need to be ongoing, for future seasons or whatever, once people have that collective account established.
Super. Does anyone have any other questions? Feel free to unmute yourself or jump into the chat. And I welcome feedback if you want to provide it now, or feel free to email me if you think another session with Ashley or Graham or both of them is something that'd be useful for you guys. But it sounds like we've certainly identified some people that need a little bit of help with their permissions. So reach out to me or Graham and we can help you with that to make sure it's all streamlined for you. But yeah, if anyone has any questions, raise your hand or unmute.
It's Norm. I got one quick question. Hopefully
Go ahead, Norm.
It's quick. So when I did the club affiliation, I put in our new website because it's a new website location and everything, and I put in a whole bunch of other stuff. And when I go here to this now, and if I go to the dashboard and go to the club page, none of that information is showing up. It's all the old one. And my application is shown as approved. So why isn't the new stuff coming through?
I
Or
don't
do
know
I
if
have to
that's
do something,
linked.
or?
Graham, can you speak to that? The landing registration page, the club registration page versus what they enter when they affiliate, I think comes from different places.
Are you talking about the like the permit affiliation
Right.
sanctioning process?
Yes.
Yeah, so that is separate, and it would create a separate listing than what you're seeing underneath the club tab. You know, there is a way to kind of pull that previous listing. It's not super intuitive, but for what I imagine you're doing is trying to update the information that you had submitted in your kind of sanctioning application for the club. If you go to the permits tab on the dashboard, you'll be able to view your submitted information there and make amendments to what you had submitted. I see Ashley's just pulling up this permits tab here. So if you go there, you should be able to see and modify that information. What we're doing to kind of get around that caveat of having those two listings is the actual club information from the club tab where you're accessing, you know, like that affiliation and the reports and whatnot. That's going to be the actual information that's displayed in the system. When we go through or when AOA is approving information submitted through these applications in the permit queue, you know, they can double check that information or let us know this needs to be updated. So we'll do our best
Okay,
to
so
update that
just to clarify this, I went to permits and sanctioning application. I clicked on it and opened it up, and I'm seeing all of the correct information, our new website and the whole bit, and the social media links that I put on the application. But when I go to clubs and call up the clubs, it's not there. So what do I do to fix this?
Yeah, those aren't, you know, typically linked. The permit and the club itself is separate. If you want to update information that's in the system as it exists, you know, like things like the landing page and the walkthrough of kind of the process I did at the beginning of the call, that would be done from the clubs tab and from the club page itself there. Sorry if that wasn't clear, yeah.
Okay, no, I'll go take a look at that then. Okay, thanks.
Yeah, if you go to clubs and then select your club, and then there's a configuration tab, you know, club listing. If you check that out, and there's also that knowledge base article that I shared earlier. I'm going to throw it back in the chat here right now. And if you check that out, it'll kind of give you a good introduction of those different tabs that'll be relevant in updating that information that is actually live in the system and that end users can view. You know, say if you wanted to add information collection or a club waiver, that article I just posted in the chat will show you where to go to find that stuff.
Okay, I'll take a look. Thank you.
And I think too, Norm, to clarify too why that's worked that way, and you can verify this, Graham, if that's the case. When we started registration in the beginning of July, we didn't have the club affiliation process set up yet. So moving forward, when you register, like you'll affiliate in July, that's where you'll be able to update all your club information, and that's what's going to be reflected. But because we didn't enact the club affiliation process till the fall, that's why there's two in there.
That's
well, yeah,
precisely the reason, yeah.
If we hadn't changed it and got a new website with a new name and new URL in the bed, it wouldn't be an issue. But
totally,
that's okay.
Yeah.
All right, thanks.
Yeah, so for currently, just to summarize that, you know, if you need to edit club information, that would be from the clubs tab and that club page proper. But then as Robin just mentioned, you know, when this summer, when you're submitting, you know, a sanctioning application with AOA and submitting new information, that'll be reflected in the system, yeah, for the upcoming season, yeah.
Yeah, Bruce mentions a 2 to 3 page cheat sheet with screenshots would be great. That knowledge base document will likely help Bruce. There's probably going to be some content there, and this call has been recorded, which I'll post and share the link with you guys. So if you want to, you know, in your spare time, review this Zoom call and video, you can. But yeah, reach out.
I think what Bruce is looking for, and you mentioned, you know, the cheat sheet with screenshots, that's exactly what we try to do in our knowledge base articles. So you open that up and there may be a bit of a wall of links at first, you know, answering questions, you know, how to download reports, how to follow registrations or whatnot. So it can be a little daunting, but if you click one of those links or scroll through that document, you know, we try to answer a specific question with screenshots like that in a walkthrough. So you can use the search functionality at the top, or that article that I just linked there is going to cover most of the things that you'll need to do in the system as a club admin. So you can search that knowledge base or check that article out, and that should kind of give you what you're looking for. But if you do have any specific questions that aren't answered, you can reach out to our info@snowreg.com email address, and we can help out.
Super. Does anyone have any more questions? We're half an hour over, so I don't want to take too much more of everyone's time. But we're always available to help answer questions and get this set up for you guys so that you can learn it and understand the process. So when we're back on snow, this process is a little easier. So provide me with some feedback if you guys would like to have another very specific session on how to use some of the tools. And I think once we get closer to the season and that COVID contact tracing component gets rolled out, we will do this again. I think that's fair to say, Graham, that we should do another one specifically with the contact tracing piece once we fine tune that, so everyone can see that. But certainly provide us some feedback. I'll shoot this link out to everybody. So if people weren't able to attend, they can watch this, and keep the questions coming, and we'll get you guys sorted from a permissions perspective, because it sounds like that might be most of people's problems, is just getting the permissions correct.
Yeah, I agree on both those fronts. We'll have another meeting similar to this once the COVID tracking stuff is nailed down, and we'll have sorted out the permissions issues by then. And as I envision it, by the time we have that meeting with the COVID tracking, as it's going to be ready to roll out, all the templates and whatnot that I kind of mentioned in my overview of those tools, they'll be available and already under your account. So, the permissions issues will be sorted out then. We'll demonstrate how you can go in and customize that stuff, and it'll be ready for use essentially by the time we have that meeting. Yeah.
And I'm certainly not an expert in this system. So I rely heavily on Graham to help with a lot of questions, but I'm getting better. So, shoot them to me and I can do my best and help you out. And if I can't, I'll escalate the issue and go to Graham. But thanks guys, everyone, for their time. I'll hang out here for a couple more minutes if anyone wants to ask any more questions, but that's the end of the formal component. Thanks to Graham and Ashley for joining us. That's really super helpful. And we appreciate you guys taking the time.
For sure. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thanks, Robin, and thank you everybody for attending.
Bye for now.
Bye.